Alright guys, it is time once again for another review of a Transformers Cyberverse episode. Today we're taking a look at the 10th episode of the series, McAdams. This episode starts off with Bumblebee and Windblade flying in space in a dogfight with Slipstream also in her own scout ship. It's good to see that Windblade is actually flying the ship this time instead of Bumblebee, unlike in, I believe it was the 3rd episode where Bumblebee was flying the ship. But Windblade is trying to shake Slipstream off her tail. They go diving towards Earth when Bumblebee gets the idea to drive out of the back of the ship. He transforms and he has that 3-barreled blaster from a few episodes ago, and he blasts Slipstream's ship. Bumblebee mentions McAdams, and Windblade immediately wants to land. They find a weird, mountain kind of thing that is oddly shaped like Bumblebee's head. It seems like Bumblebee's memories have started coming back on their own, and the two watch one of Bumblebee's memories of McAdams. This actually takes place right after the Cube episode. The first thing we see is Ratchet leaving for a medical emergency. It's nice that we finally get to hear Ratchet talk, and he has a pretty decent voice.
No time to chat, Bumblebee. Medical emergency.
From here, it's pretty crazy seeing all these Autobots and Decepticons just kind of hanging out and having fun. We see a replay of the Cube match that Bumblebee was in on the TV, cementing the continuity between these two episodes. We see Grimlock talking to a couple generic Autobots when Soundwave decides to plug into the jukebox, and then him and a couple random Seekers just do this whole choreographed dance. It's mind-blowing. We then have Optimus Prime and Megatron in a booth talking about Megatron's rally, which we saw in one of the previous episodes. Next we see Wheeljack and Shockwave playing with one of his little drones. And then we see Hot Rod and Shadow Striker arguing who is the better sports team, Iacon or Polyhux. It looks like they're about to go at it, but Bumblebee says there's no fighting in McAdams. Then we finally see McAdam himself, serving Bumblebee and Windblade a couple of big mugs of Energon, which is when he mentions that they are hiding in a cave shaped like Bumblebee's head, which Bumblebee and Windblade in the memory have no idea what he's talking about, but in the real time, it actually kind of makes sense. We then see another memory. This one, I'm guessing, is near the beginning of the war, because the Autobots and Decepticons in the bar are not so happy with each other. Bumblebee escorts a Decepticon by the name of Deadlock, which, if you know your IDW, is the name of Drift back when he was a Decepticon, now turned Autobot. We also see Chromia talking to Windblade, telling her she should come back to Caminus, but Windblade says that Cybertron is her home and she wants to stay and fight. It is then when Megatron comes in, saying that Deadlock is mistaken if he thinks he can just leave the Decepticons. But McAdams says there's no fighting allowed, and although we don't see it directly, we can tell by the shadows and everybody's expressions that he seems to grow to an immense size, enough to intimidate even Megatron. Megatron leaves, and McAdams says that Deadlock can stay as long as he likes, essentially offering him asylum. He then commends Bumblebee on his little stunt of jumping out of the ship and shooting down Slipstream's ship with the triple-barreled blaster. Again, in the memory, they're confused, but in the present time, things are starting to click. We then get our third and final memory of McAdams, with it seemingly all closed down. At this time it seems that Bumblebee has lost his voice, and he's about to leave on the Ark to search for the Allspark with Optimus Prime, while Windblade stays behind on Cybertron. But McAdams assures the two that they will always remain friends, and that they will find each other again.
To friendship.
He then tells them that they need to find the King of the Dinosaurs, which is when Bumblebee gets a call from Grimlock on his radio, which is funny because if you know anything about Transformers, you know Grimlock, me king, and that's the end of the episode. I know I say this every episode, but I think this is my new favorite. There are so many references, both to past episodes in the show itself, and Transformers lore from the comics and cartoons and everything. There's just so much packed into this 10 minutes. It is insane. They didn't have to have the references to the Cube episode. They didn't have to have Deadlock, who we know becomes Drift if you read the IDW comics. They didn't have to reference Megatron's speech. They didn't have to reference Windblade and Chromia being from Caminus. And they certainly didn't have to include Soundwave's little dance number, but they did. All while telling this story with one of the original 13 in it that is so time crazy complex that it would make Doc Brown's head spin.
Great Scott.
That's how absolutely amazing this writing is in the show, and I cannot wait for episode 11. I can't even wait for the rest of this season. This show is so incredible that I'm having difficulty putting it into words. I just love it. I think if this series, despite its ratings, can somehow get 3 seasons under its belt, I think this may top Beast Wars and Animated as the best Transformers series of all time. It is that good. Yes, some of the acting is below par to say the least, but the writing and the music and the animation is just incredible. It's just so far beyond anything that we have seen in a Transformers series in a very long time. The show deserves so much praise, it's ridiculous. But that's enough out of me before I start crying. That's how good this show is. Let me know what you guys thought of down in the comments. We're out of episodes for now, so I don't know what I'm going to do for the next... Well, I have some ideas what I'm going to do for next week, but I'll leave that till then. Maybe we'll get episode 11 between now and then. Maybe we won't, but we'll play it as it comes. Oh, but before I leave you, I have this crazy theory that I wanted to share. So, in the past, McAdams has always been referred to as like a trans-dimensional bar. Basically, the bar can exist in all continuities at once, meaning you can have characters from different universes in the same bar at the same time. So you could have Armada Starscream with Beast Wars Megatron, with Movie Bumblebee, with G1 Prowl, with Starsaber, with Alternity Cliffjumper, and I could just keep going on and on. Basically, any Transformer and any other Transformer could theoretically interact within McAdams' bar. But obviously in the show, we only see Cyberverse characters. But we do see a good number of generic Autobots and Decepticons. Now, this is where my theory comes in. If you're familiar with Doctor Who has this perception filter thing, where basically, the TARDIS is a police box, but nobody sees it, because the perception filter just kind of makes people around it think that it's supposed to be there, so it doesn't stand out. But I'm wondering if McAdams has something like that, but for characters from other dimensions. So basically, we see all these characters as generic Cyberverse Autobots and Decepticons. But that's because we're watching Cyberverse. What if some of these characters are actually from other universes? But obviously it would cost a lot of money and time and resources to create whole new models, specifically for characters from different shows, comics, etc. So for all we know, when Grimlock is talking to the 2 generic Autobots, that may actually be G1 Grimlock and Robots in Disguise Grimlock that he's talking to, for all we know. But anyways, that is my crazy fan theory for McAdams. Again, let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and I will see you guys again next week for some more Cyberverse stuff, whether we get episode 11 or not. But until next time.
You wanna go where everybody knows.